o'clock and we could start. So officially, I want to welcome you all here to our webinar and thank you for joining us today. I'm Kirsi Laine. I'm CEO of Master Finland, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on modern leadership. At Master, we believe that good leadership is not just about performance or results. It's about understanding people, building trust, and creating the right conditions for success. And today we will explore what this means in practice and what tools and insights leaders need to thrive in today's working life. We have here Lise Sustman Allen from Denmark, and I'm very happy and proud that we have Lise here with us today. Lise brings years of experience in leadership development, assessment science, and the psychology of performance. Lise works closely with organizations across Europe to support data-driven leadership. And today, Lise will share her expertise on what makes leadership effective, human, and future-ready. And we also have on the line, we have Annika Vallo, my colleague from Finland, and Annika is here, the technical expert. So if there are some problems with the technical side, so she will help you. And of course, if there are some things that you want to talk in the chat, so Annika will also then tell these questions to Lise. So we will have this webinar so that you can if you have questions, you can share them along the way, so you don't need to wait until the end, and we will take the questions during this webinar. You can write them in the chat, and if you want, you can also raise your hand and ask the question and open your microphone. The slides will be sent to you afterwards, and this webinar will also be recorded, and you will get the recording also afterwards. And if you want to connect with us on LinkedIn, you can click with your camera those QR codes, and you can go directly into Lise's profile on LinkedIn or my profile on LinkedIn. And Annika's profile you will also find, even though there is not this QR code. So very nice to have you here. And I will say a few words about Master. So if you change the slide, yes, thank you. So what is Master? Master is a Nordic-based and globally operating organization. We are specialized in evidence-based talent assessment and development. Master International designs and continuously develops digital assessment tools, including personality tests, cognitive tests, and motivation-based instruments. And all these tools are grounded in the latest research in occupational psychology and psychometrics. And Master Finland, or Master Suomi, as we say here, we are a part of Master Network, and we bring these tools into practice in Finland. We offer expert-led training, we offer certifications, ongoing support, and strategic insight for recruitment, onboarding, and leadership development. Here are some pictures of all our tools. There are different tools that I just mentioned: personality test, cognitive tests, and then motivation-based instrument, and also some tools for screening customer service and sales stuff. We are very happy that we can talk about these to you if you need, and you can connect with us later with me or Annika. But now I will give the stage to Lise, and please.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone. very happy to be here. Even though I'm not physically in Finland, it's only been a couple of weeks since I went to visit Kirsi in Finland. So very happy that we can do this webinar together. I want to start the webinar just by having your input on this concept of modern leadership that Kirsi has and Annika, they have invited me to talk about today. So if you can write in the chat, what is the first thing that pops up in your mind when you think of modern leadership? I'll see if I can find the chat here. So I can look at it. So if you let your mind wander on the concept of modern leadership. So we have empathetic leadership, humanity, freedom, listening, human-centric, serving, group, adaptability, flexibility, situational, coaching approach, balancing empathy with direction, all very, very cool keywords and align perfectly with what I'm going to talk about. So that's really great. Trust, also from Melinda, flexibility, looking for future, loyal approach. Very nice words. So I think there's a consensus that we want to look at leadership from a I like the word humanistic point of view, so that we have this softer side when we look at leadership. And I think this is also, I'll proceed now, so I can't look at the chat, but you're welcome to write more keywords if you want to. I think one of the greatest difficulties that we have seen over the years is that what bad leadership can do. And this bad leadership is actually the lacking this empathy, human group support, flexibility, lacking all of those elements of a leadership. And I hear stories of bad leadership from both friends, families, but also in my professional life as a occupational psychologist. And I think this is a huge issue for companies, having leaders who are not able to embrace these elements of what we call modern leadership. And the consequences of this is lacking or reduced productivity, low employee motivation, high employee turnover, negative mental health, conflicts, and in the end, bad employer branding. So we definitely know what the consequences are when we're not able to embrace these elements. And a really interesting research from 2024 shows that bad leaders, if we don't do anything, then they will just get worse. So it's not like if bad leaders just have the experience, they will get better over time. No, Harvard Business Review made an article in 2024 showing that research has actually shown that bad leaders get worse. So that's really disturbing, especially when you're sitting as an occupational psychologist. So we need to do something. Nearly 7 out of 10 said that they would quit their jobs over a bad manager. This is from Forbes, also from 2024. I know that there have been made different studies, and normally this is like people stop because of a bad boss. That's like a rule of thumb. And CEOs are quite concerned about hiring the right talent. So people are stopping or quitting because of bad managers. The bad managers get worse, so more people are stopping, and CEOs they don't know where to find the right talent. So this is a really big issue when we look at leadership. Luckily, so let's put on the positive cap. Luckily, we also know what is good leadership. So even though we know the consequences of poor leadership, we also know what defines great leadership. And then the gap between these two, unfortunately, still exists. So there's still a challenge for companies to define and measure and develop effective leadership, which is one of the issues that we see in HR in general, that we have a lot of science, we have a lot of research, but there is a gap between that research and what actually happens in real life. So that is what we wanted at Master to address, to minimize this gap between research and what goes on there. So we wanted to create a tool that measures, helps to select and helps to develop effective leadership. And we wanted to base this on what we call modern leadership. So we didn't want to base it on science of leadership or how leadership looked 50 years ago. So it was very important to see, okay, what is the recent science within leadership? And then because we connected it with OPTO, which is our personality profile that is based on Big Five, we looked at the science that connected leadership with this measurement of Big Five. So we were able to triangulate between Big Five, leadership, research, and then connected it to OPTO. And what we found was that we have these three areas of theory that we have put into one report or one solution, the one that we call OPTO Leadership. So first we have this a core quadrant. Hoffman, he created what he calls a core quadrant, where he looks at a trait. In his terminology, it's a core quality. Then he looks if we have that trait and we do that behavior too far. Is there a pitfall, especially with the traits that are really strong or really high with people? He identifies that there can be some pitfalls in that behavior. And then he has this core quadrant where he works around and looking at challenges, and then what he calls allergy, and then it goes around again. So we use that framework to look at people's highest profiles or leaders' highest profiles. We have then looked at, especially Kaiser has some really nice research done on what he calls versatility or versatile leadership. And this is the definition of a balance between between, I hate the words, but hard skills and soft skills within leadership. I don't have a better word, but this balance between some hard skills and soft skills. And then we were quite fascinated by Goleman's emotional intelligence theory. And emotional intelligence is in the core this humanistic, empathetic, supportive, team-oriented approach that Goleman not only developed for leaders, but developed as a common intelligence or a common, don't want to say trait because that means something else in my world, but an inherent way of approaching the world. So when we look at Goleman, we can see that a lot of researchers have actually looked at emotional intelligence and looked at the big five and seeing how can we measure with a big five test, how can we measure the some of the elements that are present in emotional intelligence. And here there is a researcher, Petridis, no idea how you pronounce the name, but in my world it's Petridis, who have done a lot of these mapping out the big five compared to Goldman. So super interesting to see how can we measure. And I think some of the things in emotional intelligence that we can't measure with a big five test is, for example, the how aware am I of my own presence in the world? So this awareness is not actually a trait, right? So it's not a preference, it's not a way of it's not a way of behaving. It's an awareness which can change very well over time, and that is something that is a part of emotional intelligence that we can't measure. So it's not like a perfect match 1-to-1, but it's 95% of what is in emotional intelligence that we can measure with a big five test like OPTO, which is super interesting. And one of the things that that Goldman also that he has is this framework of leadership styles. And I think what separates Goldman from a traditional view of leadership styles is that Goldman doesn't advocate for leaders being just one. So instead of saying we can do a measurement and say, okay, you're a democratic leader, perfect. Then emotional intelligence is more of a measurement of these 6 different types of leadership styles. How flexible or how agile am I? And again, those were also some of the keywords you came with in the beginning. So that just fits perfectly in here. So emotional intelligence, if we measure that, the higher emotional intelligence I have, the more flexible I am in using the correct leadership style that the situation requires. Of course, there are some, those are the darker one, the pace setting and the commanding, which can, if they are used too much, or if I only have these to choose from, if I'm very low on emotional intelligence, then in an emotional intelligence mindset, I would not be a very good leader. I would not be a very flexible, agile leader if I'm too much in these 2 different types of leadership styles, because these can have a negative effect on other people. So I think what is also important here is that we have taken a stance on what we think, based on science and based on the data, on what we think is good leadership. And we have done this because we know that it can add value. It can add value both to development, which I'll go through in a couple of slides, but definitely also to recruitment. And when we do recruitment, it's all about how to select the best leaders. And we know with the OPTO Leadership test or the profile, that it can tell the hiring company something about the potential of leadership that we see in these people based on their personality profile. It's super important still to have to be aware of what we need in the position. So even though we say, okay, we think that a good leader looks like this, it's a very generic picture. And I think it's important just to note that we still need to do what we call criteria in master, where we also do the job specific position. So we evaluate exactly what is it that we need when we look at the personality profile. And how do I know that this will add value in a recruitment? Well, that's also looking at some really important research. So in 2022, 2023, Sackett came out with a group of other scientists with a big meta-analysis looking at what we call predictive validity. So looking at different ways of assessing candidates. Some of them are very job specific. Those are the gray ones. So that means that when we use a work sample test, we have to alter it every time we have a new recruitment. We need to do a work sample test that is special for that position. And then we have the blue ones here, which are the generic, the ones that we can just reproduce and use over and over again, which is really time saving. And here, what I want to highlight is the personality-based emotional intelligence was something that Sackett and his team, they looked at. And this comes out very, very high as a predictor of who will do well in any job in general. So what they're saying is that there is a correlation between a high level of emotional intelligence that is measured by using a personality trait test and if a person has success in a job or this job performance. So that also sparked that we wanted to do something here within emotional intelligence, and that's why we started looking at Goldman. But it's not only relevant for recruitment, it's also super relevant when you do development in companies. So of course we have the traditional coaching of leaders. So I think the report is built up in a way where we give information on, of course, what is status quo, but also we have this additional material on how can you then develop, how can you then move in a coaching session. So it's a great support for people doing coaching. And I think the two main questions that OPTO Leadership and this modern leadership approach, the main questions it can answer is, of course, how do we best support our leaders? But especially this, how can we spot leadership potential? Super interesting in companies that, for example, have leadership development programs. You know, we have to choose who to send on these programs. We have to find out who has a potential for being a great leader in the future. We don't have any experience, so we can't measure on a leadership measurement or a 360 or something else. So we need to measure this potential, and that's exactly what OPTO Leadership is really great at. And I think I wrote here, especially for leaders and organizations who would like to focus on balanced leadership, I think that is a key. I should have made that a little bit bigger, I think, because it's really important that the organization buys into the idea of this balanced leadership. That leadership is not only about the hardcore skills, but also the softer skills. So this balance is what I've tried to show here. So this is modern leadership. We must get results, but we must also be good at building relations. And I don't think it's one or the other. I think managers who are good at building relations, foster collaboration, and so on, if they're not able to get results, they might not do it themselves, but then they have to be able to motivate a team to get the results. But if they're not able to do results, then they are also not defined as great leaders. So it's not only about the soft skills. Great leaders still have goals. They still must drive things forward, have to stay focused, a strong sense of urgency, and all those a little bit harder skills are actually also super important. Looking through history, we got this one, right? So we know this part, and we can see that a lot of leaders out there have a huge focus on this. So that's why this part is the modern part or the new part, and that's I assume also why that was what you guys wrote in the beginning, is the collaboration, nurturing, supportive, well-being, creating an environment where people can thrive. That is actually what differentiates differentiates leaders. When I look at leaders in real life, right? So this is like a theoretical understanding, but when I look out at real life, I see a lot of leaders doing this. A lot of leaders great at doing their job, and the one of the things that we see a lot, and I'm sure some of you have seen the same in the companies where you are, that we have people who are great at their jobs, great specialists, and what do we do with them? We promote them to leaders. We have no idea if they're great leaders, but they're great at doing results. They're great at doing their job as specialists. But we forget that this part is actually a big part of being a leader. But let's look into these two sides. So the first, the result or the hard skilled side. When we look at OPTO, we measure these four aspects of personality traits: assertiveness, drive, confidence, and ingenuity. And these four traits have been chosen based on looking at our data. So we have a data set of over 100,000 leaders who have taken OPTO throughout the years. And we can see that there is a significant change or a significant rise in the level of these four traits when we compare managers to non-managers, managers to employees. So there's something here where we can see that managers score higher on these four traits. We don't know if it's they have higher traits and that's why they become managers, or if they have higher traits because they are managers. Like it's a hen and the egg, right? We don't know. But we know that there is a correlation between being a manager and then having a high score on these four traits. An interesting part, just this is a side note, when we look at OPTO, we have 20 different aspects, and in general we can see that managers, they score higher, except on one, which is quality assurance, which is the detail orientation, where employees score higher. So I think that's a really interesting thing to see that managers in general are not interested in details, more interested in the overall picture. But apart from that, in general, managers score higher on almost all the traits. But then when we do an analysis of saying, okay, which ones have a significant larger score, these are the four. These four traits are great when you want to take the lead, set the direction, speed, challenge existing, this sense of urgency. I chosen here a picture of a kitchen because I think when you need to put out a fire, or if you're working at a kitchen and it's Friday evening and you just need to serve hundreds of plates, you really need these four traits. You need it especially for that short-term success. You can't run a kitchen by sitting down in a ring and ask what everybody wants. You need to be able to set direction, point out orders, and so on. But the issue is that in the next day, if you don't have time to sit down, create new plates, have the time to be innovative, that you do exercises or tasks or workshops where you work together and you get to know each other, then you can't do this urgency short-term success. And that means that to run a good kitchen, you must also have this other side of the coin, or this balance. And we have paired up the 4 what we call managerial aspects together with these complementary aspects, which are measured in OPTO by altruism, stability, sincerity, and trust. And we can see that these 4 traits are the relevant traits when we want to build well-being, team spirit, respect. When we want reflection, I could also put innovation in here, restitution, support, stable work environment, collaboration. And these show to be very important for success in the long run. So again, it's not one or the other, but they must be balanced. They must be combinations so we can do the short success and the long success. Just want to make sure that there are no questions so far, Annika.
No,
Nope.
just one link that was kindly put
Okay,
in
cool.
chat by Yasmin. So
Nice.
please continue.
Yes, excellent. So these managerial and complementary aspects, they were defined when we looked at the OPTO data and looked at the science, especially of these versatility. And then we developed this versatile leadership, which is a big part of OPTO Leadership. And here I've taken an example where you have the managerial aspects on one scale and the complementary aspects on the other scale. And here you can see the managerial aspects of a profile. This is a demo profile. And we have the complementary aspects over here. So for example, we can see on one pair or one balance, we call compassionate assertiveness. We look at assertiveness together with altruism. So this one is this person scores here in a very nice area on the scale, equaling a 7 on the managerial and a 7 on the complementary aspect. So this tells me that when we look at these 2 traits, this person has that that balance between knowing when to put the foot down, when to go in front, but also on the other side, the altruism over here also knows when to step back, when to let others go in the front, knows how to put themselves in the place of others. On another scale here, we call serene drive. We look at drive and we look at stability. And in this case, the person is in an area here we call high managerial aspects. And that is high managerial aspects compared to the complementary aspects, right? So we have a managerial aspect of 6 and a complementary aspect of 1. So this tells me that this person has a lot of energy, but unfortunately, which is the low stability here, can lose composure when they get frustrated, or if people don't have the same level of drive. This is a person who I would expect expresses their feelings, openly shows irritation, which combined with this relatively high drive can create alienation with other people. Luckily, this scale here might be able also to balance that out. So we can't, the whole idea here is that we can't look at one aspect and isolate that and only look at high drive and say, oh, great, high drive, that's just perfect. It's high drive together with stability, but it's not only those two, it's high drive and stability together with assertiveness and altruism and so on. So it's kind of like painting a bigger picture, and not just looking and not just focusing at one aspect isolated. So this is a help. This is a way to help both the leaders understanding their profile, but again also a coach or a recruitment consultant understanding the differences between the candidates. And I often get a question, okay, so if I'm very, very low on this stability, is that just, that's just a trait, that's how I am, I can't do anything, just learn to live with me being frustrated and lashing out when I get filled up with emotion, also the positive emotion, not just the negative emotion. And I try to make a graph over here of how you can work with these traits, because yes, traits are, we call them that they're stable. So if I measure a trait, I'm probably gonna measure the same trait a couple of years down the road, but they're not static. So it's not like you can never change, but it takes a lot of effort to change these traits, or at least to alter them. And I wouldn't expect a person that is one on stability, even though they're really great at working on themselves, I wouldn't expect them to jump up in the higher end. But I could expect them to move 1, 2, 3 scores, and we call this a STEN score because it's a scale with 10. So I could expect them to jump 1 or 2, maybe 3 STEN scores on this scale, if they really work, and if something important happens in their life. So let's go through this graph over here. So there's a personality aspect or a personality trait that we measure. This reflects a natural behavior. This means that there's something here that this person naturally does. They will naturally yell when they're angry, laugh when they're happy, cry when they're sad. And then we can do an intervention. So we can either, something can happen in their life. An intervention can also be like life events. It could also be that they have taken a test and go join coaching session and being aware of their traits, because this consciousness of your aspects, if you allow the reflection in there and sometimes also a little help, but the intervention could also be these life events. So we see changes when we get kids, if we're in a stable relationship, if somebody very close to us, they die, life-threatening diseases, stuff like that, that can also ignite this reflection of who we are and how we are in relation to other people. So something happens here, which means that I get aware of my behavior. So if I'm very low in stability and my natural behavior was that I really cry super easy, I can learn to do something different if I get really sad. Count to 10. The coach has helped me to to learn to deal with my feelings. So I cry when I come home. I don't cry at work, or I go have a soda in the kitchen. So I alienate myself from whatever make me sad. Something that doesn't come natural to me, but I know that I want to do that to change my behavior. And if I do that enough times, in psychology, there's a rule of thumb that we have to do something 21 times, then it gets internalized. I don't know if that is valid for everything, but a rule of thumb. We can then internalize our behavior, meaning that that just becomes natural to us. So even though it's not like our preferred reaction or our preferred behavior, we can actually internalize it so much that it becomes a part of us. Meaning that if we test again, we will probably see a little change here in the on the scale. So it's not impossible to change, but it actually requires a lot of effort. So OPTO Leadership has this part with the versatile leadership. It also has a part with optimized leadership that I haven't gone through that much today, which is more of the emotional intelligence part. Super interesting as well. We could do a whole webinar just diving into that. And OPTO Leadership comes in various disguises. It has a perfect leadership report that can be used for the test taker, be used by the coach and so on in recruitment. And then we have made this executive summary more to highlight some of the important things, especially in recruitment. If you have a hiring manager who doesn't want to dive into all the details, just want to highlight, we've done that in the executive summary. The really cool part here is, as a part of the reports, we have a QR code linking into OPTO Leadership additional material. And here we have a section for each part. We actually have two for the emotional intelligence. And then we have, you can't see it on this one, but we also have some supportive questions for the test taker or the candidate if they're in an interview setting. A lot of additional material online where people can go in with their report or the coach and then get exercises and see how they can work with their profile. This is super interesting and really nice that we can add on as we go on, because it's all online. Also translated into a lot of languages. I think we have right now 10 languages on OPTO, and Finnish, of course, is one of our main languages. So all of this is also in Finnish. And then we have the Master People platform. If you're a customer of Master, you will know this. It's our online solution where you administer, you send out invitations, you look at the analysis like this, which means that you can look at various people at the same time. So here we have one person that's green and another person that's pink, and the same over here. So you can compare people, where the reports, of course, are just one person at a time. I think what we have discovered with OPTO Leadership. So I've done some studies with a couple of companies, and I've also given feedback on to people that have taken OPTO Leadership. And I think there's a lot of potential that a company, both regarding recruitment, but also regarding development, a lot of benefits that a company can have if they start using OPTO Leadership and using all the potential that's in the OPTO Leadership solution. So increasing well-being, reducing staff turnover, improving decision-making, increased team performance, increased leadership abilities. And all of this, of course, is because OPTO Leadership opens your eyes to what we have defined as this modern leadership. And that was all the keywords you started mentioning. So because OPTO Leadership is based on emotional intelligence, on versatile leadership, if you use it and follow the ideas of OPTO Leadership, then you will be able to harvest all these benefits. And as I said, it's not only to be used in recruitment, but also how I can support leaders. When we do coaching, we identify talents, and we do these leadership development programs. So actually, the whole life cycle of OPTO Leadership the whole life cycle of leadership is supported by OPTO Leadership solution. I said it before, I'm just going to repeat it again. I think one of the crucial highlights here also to the benefits before is that we need to know that the culture of the organizations that we represent can buy in on this notion of modern leadership. So if there isn't an alignment in the way we talk about leadership, then it will be really difficult, and then it will be really difficult to harvest the benefits of OPTO Leadership. So I think it's important to to reflect on how an organization sees leadership, or maybe wants to see leadership. So I think there has to be this this urge to embrace modern leadership before we can actually harvest all of these benefits and use it in all of these places. But if we have that, then it's a great tool. Yeah, this was actually my last slide. I just want to see if there are any questions.
No questions at the moment. Please feel free to ask Lise if there's something you'd like to talk more about.
Yes, so I think it could be really interesting to hear what your thoughts are on this, on the culture of your organization. So do you see it as something that's easy to implement, or do you see that there's still a way to go before you have management on board, or if you have the buy-in from the top level?
At least not yet anyone
Not
has
yet.
responded.
No.
But I think that companies are they differ very much. So some
Yes.
companies are quite more in this modern way of thinking, and some
Yes.
companies are not so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we have one question from Essi.
Yes.
Thank you for your interesting presentation. How reliable do you find measuring emotional intelligence?
So again, we have to be aware. We measure the traits, we measure personality based on the Big Five. So the reliability here is on the link between Big Five and emotional intelligence. And there we look at research that especially, and I can send articles if somebody's interested in afterwards, very heavy articles, but they're there, where we have looked at, or they have looked at the correlation between emotional intelligence and Big Five, and they have high validity and high reliability. So I think it's important to understand that we don't measure emotional intelligence, but we measure traits, and science says that we can link those personality traits to emotional intelligence. And why I'm saying that we don't measure emotional intelligence is because we're missing that part of emotional intelligence that doesn't have anything to do with traits. For example, the awareness of myself. And that's, I also started saying, I think that we measure around, and this is just a number, 95% of emotional intelligence. So saying that by measuring the traits, we know that we can say something about emotional intelligence. So by by choosing the traits and choosing the right traits. And there we look at the science, especially from Petridis and his group, to seeing that link between big 5 traits and emotional intelligence. And just to underline, it's not just the big 5. It's also, if somebody here knows about the big 5, it's the big 5 overlaying traits, and underneath we have the different facets. So there's a lot of information in the big 5, not just the main 5 areas of factors, but we have all the facets underneath, and that's what we actually looked at. So we didn't just confine ourselves to the big 5. We looked at all the facets to see which one does our test load on, and which ones also load on emotional intelligence.
Yes, I think at least Essi is interested in these articles. So
yes, I can send it to you, Kirsi, and then if people just reach out to Kirsi afterwards, you're more than welcome to forward the article. They're open source articles, so there's no trademark or closed doors, or people have to buy access. They're open, so I can share them, no problem at all.
Good. Are there any other questions that you would have in mind, all those people who are on the line? I think one question that I have in mind is what would you say, Lise, to those people who would be interested in developing the leadership approach in company? If the present leadership approach is more about measuring and these kind of hard
Yes.
skills. So
Yes.
and then if there's a company has an HR team or HR manager who is aware of this importance of modern leadership, so where should they start?
Ooh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
So I think we're especially in the bigger companies, we're quite familiar with measuring KPIs as being, and those are key performance indicators, as being something that has to do with finances, with targets, with goals, with releases, with whatever, in whichever situations we are, right? Whichever managerial position we are. And doing not only that, but also having that a KPI can also be the well-being of the team. So making that a part, and especially in the companies, if they have a compensation, their salary system is based on how do managers perform on these KPIs. Do they meet their financial target? Then it delivers a bonus. If they meet these targets, they get another bonus. I would love to see a company saying you get a bonus if your employees are really happy, or if you know how to make great teamwork, or defining those KPIs as something that is not, or defining those KPIs on the softer skills, because we can say that we focus on the softer skills and the modern leadership, but if we still measure only on hardcore KPIs, on finance, on targets, and so on, then that is the focus of the manager, right? I focus as a manager on the stuff that I get measured on. So even though if we use OPTO Leadership and go out and hire really good managers, they can actually also be negatively influenced by the culture of the company if the culture of the company is very focused on that. So I think that is number one, that we start talking about great leaders as something that is not only about getting the job done, but having a great team. And definitely also, especially in the companies that measure and uses KPIs, that that they get incorporated some of the softer skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to agree with your views on here. Okay, so
Do you want us to proceed? I can go on to the next slide
yeah,
for you.
yes.
Jesse? Yeah.
So what should we do now? I would like to ask from the audience that what was the main thing that what is the main takeaway from this webinar? If you would like to write them on the chat, it would be really nice. So what is the main takeaway that you will take from here? And I can see there that several persons have been interested in getting this article, so I will send these to you all who have written that in the chat. Just a few comments. Pasi writes, emotional intelligence is something that is the main takeaway. Great. How about the rest of you?
And now I have time to look at the chat. I can see that there's emotional intelligence network in LinkedIn that Jasmine shared. Really cool. There's a lot of information out there on emotional intelligence, and I think that's really important when you want to develop also the vocabulary around emotional intelligence. There's a lot of information on the OPTO Leadership report, and there's a ton of information on in the additional information that people can use. So really nice to support or supply that with the other stuff from emotional intelligence.
And here, some takeaways are balance between hard skills and soft skills and flexibility and versatility. Very good. Great. Then if you change the slide, so I will let you know what you can do next. So if you want to talk more and hear more about this, how we can help your company, your organizations, you can scan the QR code and you can book a meeting with me. So you will get the access to my calendar booking, and then also we can have a good chat on that. And then, well, maybe we can leave this, or okay, leave this if somebody wants to have this QR code scanned. And I can also, yeah.
I'm sure you're also sending out the link afterwards, right?
Yes,
so people
yes.
can book. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And then the last slide is that if you are interested in getting OPTO and OPTO Leadership, so we have their trainings in June. You have to be OPTO certified in order to use OPTO Leadership. So we have in June, 12th and 13th of June, we have OPTO certification course. And then OPTO Leadership training is a 3-hour training, and that will be on 25th of June. And you can register for the trainings on our website. So you will receive all these links afterwards, and you can also contact me or Annika in order to hear more about this. Good. I think we are now finished and done. I'm very happy and thank you, Lise, very much for giving your insights and also all these results from the studies that you have done. And thank you all people who have been with us here. I hope that you have received some insights as well. And is there something that Annika you would like to say here in the end before we say goodbye?
Well, no, just thank you everyone for participating, and see you next time.
Yeah, hopefully we see you. And then one thing that I almost forgot, we have a modern leadership breakfast seminar in September, 3rd of September, and you all will get an invitation there. There is a limited seats, so only 40 people can join there, but you will get the invitation if you are interested in discussing more and hearing more about this modern leadership topic. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Bye.